Thank you.
Hit it. And
Welcome to our November 12th Outreach and Network Guild meeting. Thank you all for being here. Um, I will start us off by doing a bit of a land acknowledgement and a grounding practice. Goodness knows I need it myself. So we start by centering the land as a reminder for ourselves that everything that we experience and are and have in this life comes from the land and will return to the land. The land was here long before we rose up as people and will be here long after we are gone. And it is our obligation to move towards right relationship with the land in all the ways that we can and all the ways that are possible for us. And one of the ways we can do that is by grounding ourselves, by taking the time to breathe and connect and remember all our relations. So I invite you to close your eyes, start to feel your breath moving in and out of your body, exchanging oxygen and carbon dioxide with the environment around you. And we're going to take some time to connect to our tree relatives by imagining ourselves as a tree. So I invite you to feel into your feet, touching the ground, touching the earth. And in your mind's eye, imagine roots growing down from your feet into the earth, all the way down through the foundation of the building, into the soil, letting those roots grow big and strong so that they can absorb the nutrients in the soil, all the necessary minerals, water, and also connecting with other relations that live under the ground in the earth, bugs and worms and microorganisms, stones, heat and coolness. Just imagine those roots spreading out not only downwards but laterally as well, so that you are deeply, deeply anchored in the earth, absorbing nutrients and sharing connection and relationship with other relatives. And imagine those roots and absorbing and sucking up those nutrients, moving up the roots, back up into your body, into your trunk. And those nutrients help the tree start to grow up and up and out. And I invite you to imagine branches starting to grow out of your trunk, out of the top of your head. You might lift up your arms to be branches from which twigs and leaves sprout. And those branches are touching the sky, touching the air, the oxygen, absorbing sunshine. And just be a tree for a moment with this connection deep within the earth and then the connection reaching up toward the sky. And see if you can connect with a sense of balance between the below and the above. And when you feel ready to start to come back into your human being self, you might wiggle your toes and your fingers and open your eyes to join us back in the circle. Awesome. And we could do a check-in. Mm, what kind of tree are you today?
Hmm. Hmm. Well, first thing that came to mind to me was big leaf maple, and because they're the trees I mean, one of the more common trees around here, and especially because it's that time of year where the leaves now are down, and so there's the brown carpet of big leaf maple leaves in the forest. It just transforms how everything looks, and so that's what's on my mind. Back to you.
I remember walking the goats at High Grove in the fall, and it was like crunch, 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 crunch. The one that came to mind for me is a pecan, because they're
Hmm.
everywhere here, and there are pecan shells all over the ground that the squirrels have removed the nuts from, and so they're still ripening and falling, and it's very much pecan season, so it's really nice. I actually crushed one and started eating parts of it the other day, and it was very mealy. So there are certain pecans that are better, and I'm not really sure how to know, but
Hmm.
I gave it a shot. Um, okay, so I will share my screen. Look at the agenda. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. Um, so the only action item that I saw and that I could remember from the last meeting was developing the Lifeboat Builder sample, as well as the website stuff, which is in progress and
Hmm.
currently on hold, but these things happen. Um, and then some updates are we're halfway through Connect the Dots. We have our third session of the deep adaptation questions tonight. Our nomination form for the 2025 cohort is live on the website, and we've already had some submissions, which is exciting. The website updates are in progress, as I mentioned, and some possible topics that I added to the agenda are continuing to talk about outreach for our 2025 cohort, as well as doing our seasonal review for the end of the year for the winter.
Hmm.
Um, is there anything else that you would like to add to the agenda?
I might have a relevant update around document review,
Mm.
especially I'm thinking in particular about how it relates to the website. Because I think I've found language in different places that we can plunk down on the website.
I'm so frustrated with myself about the website because every time I was logging in, it said the current admin email is D Oshima. And I was like, oh, we can change that later. It's fine.
Uh,
Which means now
yeah,
that the error thing gets sent to him and not our email.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so anyway, but at least the website's up
yeah,
and
exactly.
working.
Yeah, it didn't crash the website.
No.
And this is just the 2020 hindsight, it's
Yeah.
oh, I should have backed up the computer
Yeah.
when it crashes, and like all that kind of stuff. And actually I just uh clicked through I got a reminder that I should back up this computer. And it's
Mm,
like, oh, later. And now
yeah.
maybe as soon as I get done here, I'll do that.
Yeah. I'm thinking about mine too because I stopped using iCloud because I don't trust cloud security, but I found a hard drive in the attic the other day. So, like, yeah, I'll just use a hard drive. It's like the olden
Mhm.
days.
Mhm. Everything's like the olden days now.
I know. There's no problem with the olden days. Well, okay, there are some problems, but there's
Yeah,
also, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um, anyway, that's cool about the white language for the website.
Mhm.
Um, cool. Shall we choose a topic from the list of 2 topics.
Hmm. Um, well, let's take it in order. Let's talk
Okay.
about outreach and because actually I have reached out to all of those people. That is all done.
Oh, cool.
And um and I'm going to be meeting with Brad. Uh Foodland, we had a networking circle meeting last night, and um I had a little chat with Amir, who is at Abundance Farm, and he was very interested and had lots of places that he was planning to post the nomination form. I'm in the process of setting up a meeting with Social Roots with Christina. Ardell has already made 2 nominations, and I need to close the loop with Ardell, and 2 and some ideas for some others. And Pam, I want to reach out to because I still don't think she's getting that this is meant to be to help her do what she's already doing. She keeps saying she's so busy doing what she's doing, and there's she has all of these questions and all of these things that are coming up, and that's taking all of her time, so she can't. I've got to figure. I want to just sort of like book a time with Pam and say, this is, this is how we want to help you. And uh anyhow, so and Pam wrote back. So Pam had a long reply and an invitation there. So that all seems to be moving forward, and it does seem like we are getting uh a number of nominees coming in. I think we've got 5 new ones,
Cool.
maybe 6 new ones. And that doesn't count Amir, who might be bringing in like, he could be bringing in 5 at once
Mm-hmm.
because Abundance Farm might be one. So anyhow, when I talked to Amir, I suddenly had this realization that we may need to like we say we're going to limit it at 25, and we might have to have a conversation about the 25.
Mm.
Um, Oh, actually, you know what? The other thing too that I just want to bring up. Oh, that little elephant in the middle of the room. Do we change anything because of the election? Um, do we want to, or how does the election shape our messaging at all about
Mm.
lifeboat builders?
I don't know. Um, I don't think the goals have changed at all. We still need to
Mhm.
be building lifeboats, if anything, just faster, or more people are going to be are feeling it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. Um, that's a good question. I'm gonna nominate myself. I just haven't done it yet.
Right. Yeah.
But
Well, and I'm assuming there's a list of like 5 folk that I think are auto-nominated already.
mhm,
Um, so um oh, and actually, you know what? The other question that came up for me is now that we have some nominations coming in, what's the process?
yeah,
What's the process? Who takes on what? And how do we make sure that there's timely response, etc.
yeah. It's like we were gonna announce the winners at some point. So when does that happen?
Yeah. Oh, and actually, I wanted to talk about rolling applications, and just because I think that it's nice to have everyone being able to start at the same time, but I
Yeah.
also don't want anyone to feel like they have to wait a year, you know.
Oh, yeah. Right.
So that like anyone can join, but you have to catch up, and then it's sort of a like there's a I think we have the means to onboard people fairly quickly, to catch them up to where the cohort is.
Yeah.
Um, but so yeah.
I'm actually wondering now about an outreach campaign, really just for social media,
Uh-huh.
um, kind of writing the election energy,
Yeah, I think
this
that's
oh
yeah.
shit energy. But treating it like not like, oh, we're doing a big campaign, but no, it's like, no, we're like gonna make a series of posts talking about everyone's feeling XYZ. Here's what
Hmm.
we're offering.
Yeah.
Um,
And I'm not
because
ignoring
sorry,
you. I've got my other screen here, so that's
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just
yeah.
bringing stuff up here so I can look at it.
Because also I've been thinking about, our semester is wrapping up. We're
Yeah.
almost done.
Yeah.
So we're not going to be posting what we've been posting.
Yeah.
It's time to transition into the next quarter. So,
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good idea. And I think you're right. It doesn't have to be a big deal. I think it's just, and it's super simple now because we've got the website to drive them to
yeah.
and the form. And, it's really just a question of like, what are some, and I think that there's a variety of angles to sort of talk about. Um, but yeah, I think, riding the ocean feeling that the whole, I was actually thinking this morning about, how does the election change things?
Mhm.
Um, and I think the big thing it changes in my mind is it just sort of speeds up things that we've already been preparing for. Um,
yeah, it's definitely, people are mobilizing. It's really cool.
mm,
And really scary things have been happening really quickly at the same
yeah.
time. So,
Mm,
um, yeah, people are enrolling in self-defense classes and divorcing their husbands
uh,
and um, talking about, yeah, community building in all different kinds of ways. So it's what we
uh,
always talk about of like the weight and the heaviness of collapse and the gift that is the
yeah.
community building that comes out of it.
Wow. And the interesting thing too is so like my family is freaking out, my brothers. So, they are generally freaking out and and of course, they're my age older, but they're still stuck in a version of politics that just isn't appropriate anymore. You know what I mean? It's like we should write a sternly worded letter, you
Yeah.
know? And so it's one of the things I'm wondering about is how to communicate. Because it's also one of the things I think that's a strength about the lifeboat approach. I was, looking at how do you resist authoritarianism. And one of the articles that I was reading said the first thing that you need to do is secure your networks of trust, and be really clear now about, are people in or out, and, kind of, making kind of clear where people are, but it's very relational, right? Like that's
Yeah.
the thing about as authoritarians move in, they will systematically attack all of those, places of congregation and organizations, like the traditional mobilization vectors
Yeah.
will be the first things to get shut down.
Hmm.
So we're going to see like stiff attacks on NGOs,
Hmm.
the larger the better. And so, how, and that's the whole thing about the lifeboat is it's how do you exist in the cracks,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And sort of encourage institutions to diversify and to,
Mm.
don't always meet at the church. Go to a park, go to someone's house. Like, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. It's here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, and that also makes me think of the psychological part, because a part of this is also just going to be randomness for the sake of randomness, confusion for the sake of confusion.
yeah,
And that can be really disorienting
yeah,
unless you've learned to be really you've learned how to be confused well, like I have.
hmm,
I can be confused at a graduate level.
hmm,
I can
yeah,
maintain confusion over simple things for long periods of time. It's all been
yeah,
part of my planning.
yeah. I saw this post that was like, we need to be keeping track of what's happening, stay aware, and also not feeding into all the fear and the confusion and the ways that that these people want us to feel.
Hmm.
And there's a difference between like having our eyes open and being vigilant versus being like hyper vigilant and freaking
Yeah.
out.
Well,
And
and I have not been, I'm still not back at my news reading habit, and I don't think I will be, in part
yeah,
because I don't know that there's going to be news coming in that's going to be useful. It's
yeah,
at this stage for me, it's kind of
yeah,
and because it's almost impossible for me not to get triggered by what's going on because it's crazy, 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 crazy.
yeah. I was just driving 45 minutes ago and someone honked a bunch at me and then rolled down the window and flipped me off because of my Free Palestine bumper sticker. And just the look on his face was just vicious and mean. And but
Yeah.
I got triggered.
Well,
I wanted something bad to happen to him.
yeah.
And I was like, okay, slow down. Like, it's okay. I'm actually surprised that hasn't happened more. It's only happened twice in the year. So
Mm,
that's
hmm.
not bad.
Hmm.
But anyway, it's like things like that are going to be like, they're ramping up. People are ramping
Yeah.
up. So it's like, okay, maybe I take the sticker off my car.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean anything about me as a person, except
Yeah.
I don't want to put myself in danger if I don't have to.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do I respond uh, proactively to things and not react, not slam my foot on the gas and try and out road rage somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, it's all. I feel like I'm really in deep adaptation right now, and I'm in the um accelerated version.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Well, and I guess, it brings us back. I think this is the energy that we want to, and how do we communicate? Um, yeah, what does this campaign look like? Um, how do we turn this into brass tacks and actionable tasks, etc.?
my first instinct is look at what we've posted before during these campaigns because it's been a lot of the same stuff. Things are bad and getting worse. Are you freaked out? Do you want to do something? We have tools to offer you.
Yeah.
Um,
And everything is just linked to the nomination page.
yep. Do we want to do another? Um, okay. So people see the post, they click on the link, they fill out the form. Um, we do rolling admission, so we read what they wrote and say, I mean, obviously, if it looks like it's a bot or somebody's just messing with us, we won't accept their
Right. Yeah.
nomination. But probably most people will say, great, you're in the cohort. And then my mind's going to, okay, so what's next?
Hmm.
Um, what's the cutoff? Is there a cutoff for being in the cohort? Because then we could have like an orientation.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's part of, yeah. And we basically have the orientation written already because we have our fall semester orientation. In fact, part of the document cleanup was I started to sort of just update the language so that I mean, it's the same offering. It's just spread out over a year rather than, I mean, some of the details change, but we've got the base there. Um, well, and I think part of the rolling admission, oh, I think I hear Roland, by the way. Um, yeah, so the charrette is probably late January.
Okay, so not February this year.
No, I think
Okay.
if we can, I mean, the last week of January, the first week of February kind of thing, in that time frame. Um, and it would be good. So, okay, so we have things coming in. I'm thinking that we need a system for documenting who's done what so that we can distribute who's doing the follow-up. And as far as I'm thinking, as soon as we get an application in, we should
Hmm.
probably initiate a process where we email the person to say you've been nominated. Um, I guess so I'm just going to be kind of anal. The nomination comes in, we do an initial review of the language and the website if provided. And so then there should be the criteria. We kind of do an assessment against the criteria that we've written. And it's basically go, no go, and it's a very low bar for go, right? It's no red flags. Um, if red flags, then what? Which is probably, I'm going to say it comes back to, does it come, which guild does it go to? Um,
Hmm.
here, or is it the Research and Learning Guild? When does that sort of take over? Um, and then anyhow, if there's no red flags, then there's an email to confirm the nomination and to say, I guess basically, would you have some time to chat and actually do a one-on-one Zoom call? Does that make sense? And at that point, we would answer questions, talk through what it means to be part of the cohort. And I guess we would want to, sort of assess their interest and fit. And I'm not sure if that's at this point, is that anything more complicated than, yeah, they seem like a lifeboat builder, or
Yeah, I think maybe not overloading them on the first call.
yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Roland.
Hey,
So we were
Um,
just talking through the outreach for the 2025 cohort and what to do when we get nominations.
hey,
Yeah, so that meeting to touch base, introductions, talk about what it means to be in the cohort, assess interest and fit, and then say our next up is orientation, which will happen maybe
Yeah.
mid-January. I
Well,
feel
and
like
I think there's even there's orientation, but then there's also come to the next navigation session or the next Connect the Dots Club or feel free to come to any of the events that might be happening.
yeah, that makes sense.
I'm sorry, I cut you off.
I was just thinking, I think it'd be good for the orientation to come before the charrette,
Definitely.
because then we can talk about what the charrette is for, how people can be involved, what you can learn, things like that.
And you know what? I just realized we can do what we've done before and actually just record it. We can schedule one relatively early for whoever might be available, and then have a recording so that we can go through whatever the standard information is, and then people can just, schedule a follow-up if they have questions.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have to find, it would be nice to find a time when as many people as possible could be there. And we don't have to get the universal time because we can always have the recording as a backup.
Cool.
And that's kind of it, I think. There's nothing. I don't think there's anything else then, is there?
I think that's pretty comprehensive. Um, I can volunteer to do a rough draft of an outreach campaign, um, and then share it for input. Maybe we can agree, or we can talk about it at the coordination circle.
Well, and I feel like I'm trying to remember where we are in the week. We're still early in the week. I kind of feel like time is of the essence, and a lot of this stuff, it's sort of, rather than waiting for the coordination circle, can we,
Mm,
you put it in Slack,
yeah.
if there's no problem, it can go out, something like
Okay.
that.
Okay.
I want to check in with Roland to see if you've had a chance to sort of catch up and if you have anything that you want to add. We were just popcorning, and now that there's the three of us, we might want to think about Circle.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was just thinking about what you were saying concerning the coordination circle, and there are other people who are actively involved. I'm thinking of Becca and Heather, who are not part of the coordination circle. And we've been treating the coordination circle kind of as like a decision-making body, and it totally makes sense to do that. But I'm wondering about um, the coordination circle, as I understand it, was supposed to be caretakers reporting and sort of redirecting things to the guilds. So I'm just I guess I'm just saying for myself, the coordination circle isn't where we decide how things are going to work, but we have other people that we could inform at the other guild meetings. So there's I mean, the only other one where there's other people is the finance and legal circle. So we can talk about about some of this stuff, report some of this stuff there to see if there's any interest or any input as well. Who am I passing to?
Ben?
Okay. Well, a refresher on how the logic of sociocracy works is the guilds are the stewardship council / the coordination circle represents the overall aims of the organization, and you delegate responsibility to functional areas through the guilds, because that allows people to focus in on what they're interested in focusing in on without having to pay attention to things they're not interested in. And so, like in this example, I think you're pointing out one thing that we aren't doing as well as we should, which is to make sure that at every guild there is a report from the coordination circle, so that everyone who's only participating at the guild level gets an update. But I think we have been doing that with finance and legal. And then in terms of the decision making, this is something that crosses guilds, right? You know, it's relevant to outreach, it's relevant to heart work, and it's relevant to research and learning. So it makes sense for those discussions to happen at the coordination circle because they're all affected. You know, it's how to coordinate who's going to do what part of it. And then in theory, the work actually gets done in one of the guilds. So the coordination circle is just making sure that the guilds have an opportunity to talk about it from their perspective. So I think it's I think it's a good clarification point that the coordination circle is meant to be used when there is inter-guild decisions that need to be made. But otherwise, the guilds are authorized to go ahead and do what they do, as long as it's within the driver statement. You know, if they're authorized to do it, then they're authorized to take a lead and make things happen. Anyhow, that's my thoughts on that. I think it's good to keep in mind, and it's good to have the frequent reminders. Over to you, Ronnie.
Yeah, that's helpful. And I think part of the purpose of reporting back from the coordination circle to each guild is so that guild members can decide, oh, I want to be at the next coordination circle because this is important to me and I want to talk about this or have an idea. And just reminding people that they're always welcome and they're very much, their presence is valued at the coordination circle. We're not trying to like be the secret group that's making the decisions. But yeah, I appreciate that clarification because there's some aspects I had forgotten about. Would it be useful to identify which elements of this plan are relevant to the coordination circle for next week? I'm not sure, and I'll pass it back to Roland.
I'll pass.
Yeah, it's an interesting, and I think it's also, I recognize that I'm trying to balance timeliness of response with thoroughness of decision making. And we are in a little bit of a gap because we don't really have the research and learning guild up. And we haven't actually, this is one of the things to sort of talk about at the design charrette this year is where does this live in terms of the guilds? Is this a research and learning thing, or is it a heart work thing? Or is, you know, outreach, I think, only has responsibility to get the message out there and channel people who are interested to the right place. And outreach doesn't have responsibility for the cohort, but then who does? And So yeah, I think that's a good thing to clarify. That's a great conversation for the coordination circle and maybe for the annual plan. Back to you, Ronnie.
Yeah, I agree. I'm kind of blanking. I was thinking, oh yeah, so I'll draft some posts this week, post them in Slack for review, feedback, edits, etc. Um, and Ben, you had mentioned a way of tracking what's happening, um, which makes me think about tracking the nominations slash cohort members,
Mhm.
so that we can keep, and that makes me think of like, okay, well, we have a CRM that we don't really use. We have other stuff. We have a help desk. So yeah,
Mhm.
where do things go? And I'll pass through along.
Sounds good. Pass. I feel like it would be more work for me to try to get caught up at this point, so I'm just going to pass.
Does Jotform do like Google Forms where it produces a spreadsheet or something? Or does it just send?
I think so. Yes. If I don't believe I encrypted the responses. If you encrypt the responses, you can't export a file, which makes sense because it's the whole point is to keep data secure. But I don't think we did that. So in theory, we should be able to export an Excel file, which would be helpful.
Oh, here we go. I'm seeing whether I have permission. It's looking promising. Yeah, okay, cool. Very cool. I thought there was one more. Okay. I'm thinking, what, I'm going to make a proposal just so that we can kind of move this forward. That I'm going to propose that we put the cohort work is research and learning. I will, as the caretaker for that guild, I will download the Jot form and make sure that there's a Google form. I want to keep it separate just so we can play around with, kind of fill in more things. But I will download the Jot form and create a Google sheet that is our 2025 cohort database, for want of a better word, just to have a simple place to start. And I'll set it up so that we can have a way of tracking the process that we laid out in the notes here. And yeah, and I'll send that around, and I'll definitely have it for the coordination circle, but I will also send it around just to get everyone's feedback on it.
Okay. I can draft an email to confirm nominations. I'm sorry, we're not in circle anymore.
Oh, kind of we are. I finished and it was over to you.
Oh, okay. Which makes me think of one more question, which was, how do we review each nomination? What is the process for that? And that's not outreach work, is what I'm hearing.
Probably not, but given the reality, oh, sorry.
I'm guessing, yeah, but yeah, that's okay. I'll pass to Roland.
I think that having just talked about the coordination circle, this is something to bring to the coordination circle to decide which guild would take care of that, I think. Over to Ben.
Yeah, I think that's when in doubt, it goes to the coordination circle.
Okay.
And what I'm thinking also is, so I'm gonna kind of channel my inner sociocraticist, and this seems to me like a good place to use a subcircle, a helping circle, and there, because people from multiple guilds may have an interest in reviewing the nominations or helping out with it. So I think that that could be a subcircle that then it's like the review board where people could volunteer to be on the nominating committee or the, nominations committee, something like that, cohort committee, whatever you want to call it. And that would definitely be something, it would, if it is a so the ultimate question of which guild is responsible for the lifeboat builders, it needs to be settled at the coordination circle. Once that is settled, that guild could, of its own volition, create a helping circle and then invite other people to that circle to take part in the work. Sort of like when we were planning out the Connect the Dots Club and we had the facilitation subcircle, and people from different guilds were able to be on that subcircle. So in terms of like pure process, I think that would be, we want coordination circle to make the determination of which guild takes this on, and then that guild can form a helping circle.
Smart. Okay. I have nothing to add. Over to Roland.
Sounds good. Over to Ben.
Yeah, I think this is good enough for now.
So, alrighty. So I will see you both in a couple hours.
Oh wait, don't we have something else?
Oh wait, we do. Sorry, I was thinking we were keeping these meetings to an hour.
Well, and that's okay with me too. I just want to make sure that we're covering what we need to cover.
Yeah, I totally forgot. I feel like the seasonal review is like a whole other meeting.
Mm. Well, and there's prep work. I'm just not in circle mode today.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Whose turn is it?
Roland, over to you.
Something that I wanted to start doing, and I guess I just need to know if it's okay, is starting another type of thing to send out, meme or whatever, that where it is, in the 70s there were these little things that was love is, and then it would be all of these different things, but they were all be these one images. And I wanted to do something similar for the Lifeboat Academy, because the Lifeboat Academy is multifaceted. So I wanted to start drafting up a bunch, not to send out, but just to start to write them up with the goal uh, of sending them out. Over to Ben.
I love the idea, and I would actually add another lifeboat. The lifeboat is, and also resilience is. you know, because I think the same way resilience means lots of different things. I think that could be, I think it's a great idea, and run with it. Over to you, Ronnie.
I like it too, and hopefully it would prompt some conversation in the comments for people to share their version of resilience or whatever. Yeah, I think that's awesome. So are people okay with tabling the seasonal review until possibly the next meeting? We're still wrapping up the fall, I feel like, and planning for the spring. So I don't feel like it's too late. I skipped Ben.
No, no, you didn't. Well, I was waiting for you to pass it over to
Really
Roland.
bad at circle today. Over to Roland.
Yeah, no, you're totally in sequence. You hadn't passed it to me yet.
Okay.
I am okay with tabling, and the winter quarter doesn't start until December 21st. Over to Ben.
Our end of year starts November 1st. So, but I am good tabling it, and let's not make it more than it needs to be. And a lot of the conversation. So what I'm going to do is I will send the sort of the outline that we put together for Heartwork. I'll create a copy for Outreach that'll just have like the sections. And then and I think
I'm
that
sorry,
can
you start that over again?
yeah.
I got lost.
So Heartwork already created their annual report.
Oh,
And
right.
and so that's an Asana task that's already in there and done. I will duplicate it for the Outreach Guild without the information, but you know, like just the sort of the headings and the, you know, here are the sections to fill in. And some of that could be pre-populated before we have our meeting, because there are already things we've talked about. So I think that might be, I'm thinking of that as kind of a caretaker or record keeper responsibility of pulling together the conversation, the elements from the conversations we've already had, popping it in there. And it could be that all we need to do as a guild is kind of look at it and go, oh yeah, that looks really good. And here's this one other thing. So that we don't have to kind of reinvent the wheel.
So is that in place of the seasonal review?
Well, no, we've already done, well, I mean, it is the seasonal review. Or well, at this time of year, the seasonal review is the annual review.
Okay.
Because
Okay,
we're wrapping up,
right.
it's the last season. So the seasonal review is the same as the annual review, and they're the same process anyhow. It's the same questions. You know, what have we accomplished? What did
Right.
we learn? Are there any
Okay.
tensions that we need to deal with? It's you know, same stuff.
Okay.
So back to you.
That sounds good. I'm just gonna pull our action items from this task to thing task. Okay. I feel good about this. Over to Roland.
Yeah, over to Ben.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to say, or it's something I'm going to do as an outreach task as I'm doing the document review. There are 4 parts to the website that I think I've found language in the existing documents. So there's the bottom of the landing page. There's the two little blurbs. I think that comes from our rules operating agreements. There's the 2 core components of the Lifeboat Academy. And I think there's language about the pharmastery in the landing, someplace. I'll find that about what the pharmastery is all about. And then I think I've already redone the language around the stakeholders, shareholders, investors. So I won't put it on the website, but I'll gather it into one document and say, you know, here's some draft language for here, 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 and here.
Awesome.
And I'm done.
Cool. Sounds good. Where should I put these when I make tasks for these? Where should I put them?
What I usually do is I do it in the sprint board, and then I put them in the new business update needed as a just because as I'm working, I'll work in the sprint board and I'll add them as new tasks, and then do the @ sign, the to add them in line in the description.
Okay, got it. Sounds good. All right. Any last thoughts for the good of the cause? Over to Roland.
Nope. Over to Ben.
Nope. Looking forward to connect the dots. Over to you, Ronnie.
All right. Me too. Sounds good. And we are adjourned.
Bye.
Bye.